Get out now before I call security. This store is for serious jewelry buyers, not people like you who clearly can't afford Tiffany. The brutal dismissal rang through the Tiffany & Co. flagship store as store manager Rebecca Walsh blocked the black woman from entering the Fifth Avenue boutique. She looked at her simple jeans and sweater with pure luxury snobbery, completely unaware she was ejecting Marcus Diamond, the CEO whose $51.68 billion jewelry empire owned Tiffany, Cartier, every diamond mine, and controlled the global precious metals supply chain. Let me take you back to 3:20 p.m. on a crisp autumn Saturday in Manhattan, where assumptions about wealth would cost someone their career and change an entire industry forever. Marcus Diamond had built her empire one precious stone at a time. At 52, she was the founder and CEO of Diamond Luxe International, a vertically integrated jewelry conglomerate that controlled every aspect of the global precious stones market. Her company owned 73% of the world's diamond mines, operated the largest precious metals refineries on 4 continents, and held controlling interests in 847 luxury jewelry retailers across 67 countries. Her empire generated $156.8 billion in annual revenue and employed over 89,000 people worldwide. From the diamond mines of Botswana to the gold refineries of South Africa, from the platinum operations in Russia to the emerald mines of Colombia, Marcus controlled the supply chain that fed the world's appetite for luxury jewelry. But more than the staggering numbers, Marcus prided herself on building an industry that elevated craftsmanship while ensuring fair labor practices and community development in mining regions. Her companies had invested $23 billion in education and infrastructure in African mining communities, transforming entire economies while maintaining the highest standards of luxury and excellence. Tiffany & Co.'s Fifth Avenue flagship store occupied one of the most prestigious retail locations in the world. The building's iconic facade, with its distinctive blue branding and elegant window displays, had been a symbol of luxury and refinement for over a century. Inside, the store featured multiple floors of exquisite jewelry, from engagement rings and wedding bands to rare, colored diamonds and bespoke pieces that cost more than most people's homes. The ground floor showcased Tiffany's most popular collections, while the upper floors housed increasingly exclusive and expensive pieces. The top floor, accessible only by appointment, contained the rarest diamonds and custom jewelry pieces, including several items from Marcus's exclusive Diamond Luxe collection that featured stones so rare they were essentially museum pieces available for purchase. As Marcus approached the main entrance, she noticed the usual Saturday afternoon crowd. Well-dressed tourists, couples shopping for engagement rings, and affluent New Yorkers browsing for special occasion pieces. The atmosphere was of quiet luxury, with sales associates dressed in elegant black attire attending to customers with professional courtesy. Marcus pushed through the iconic blue doors and stepped inside, immediately noticing the contrast between the store's reputation for excellent customer service and the cool reception she received. Several sales associates were actively helping customers, but none moved to greet her. She stood for nearly 3 minutes, an eternity in luxury retail, before anyone acknowledged her presence. The first person to approach her wasn't a sales associate, but Rebecca Walsh, the store manager, who had been watching her from across the sales floor. Rebecca, 38, had worked in luxury retail for 15 years and prided herself on being able to assess a customer's purchasing potential within seconds of their entrance. Her approach to Marcus was cautious, almost territorial, as if protecting the store's valuable merchandise from someone who might not appreciate its worth. "Can I help you find something?" Rebecca asked, her tone suggesting that Marcus probably was lost or confused about where she was. Yes, I'm interested in looking at some of your diamond collections. Specifically, I'd like to see some of your rare colored diamonds and perhaps some pieces from your exclusive collections. Rebecca's eyebrows rose slightly, her expression shifting to barely concealed skepticism. Those are some very expensive pieces. Are you familiar with Tiffany pricing? The question hit Marcus like a slap. In her retail partner agreements, she specifically required that no customer ever be pre-qualified based on appearance or assumptions about their financial capacity. The protocol was to show genuine interest and enthusiasm for helping customers explore their options regardless of how they looked or dressed. I understand that quality jewelry is an investment, Marcus replied calmly, watching Rebecca's reaction carefully. Investment is one word for it, Rebecca said, her condescension becoming more obvious. We're talking about pieces that start at $50,000 and go up to several $1,000,000. Our rare diamond collection isn't really for browsing. We typically only show those pieces to pre-qualified customers. And how does one become pre-qualified? Marcus asked, genuinely curious to hear how discriminatory Tiffany's unofficial policies had become. Rebecca gestured vaguely toward Marcus's casual attire. Well, we usually work with customers who have established relationships with Tiffany, who arrive with appointments, or who present themselves as serious luxury buyers. The implication was crystal clear. Marcus didn't look like someone who belonged in Tiffany & Co., and therefore didn't deserve to see their finest pieces. I see, Marcus said quietly. And you've determined I'm not a serious buyer based on experience, Rebecca replied, her defensiveness growing. We know our clientele. We know who our customers are and how they typically present themselves when making significant jewelry purchases. What Marcus didn't know was that Rebecca Walsh had been brought in 6 months earlier specifically to elevate the brand experience and focus on high-value customers. Her interpretation of those instructions had been to implement an unofficial screening process that prioritized certain customers over others, believing it was more efficient than spending time with tire kickers who were unlikely to make substantial purchases. This strategy had increased average transaction values, but it had also generated a growing number of complaints about discriminatory treatment that had been quietly filed away without proper investigation. Ms. Walsh, Marcus said, having noticed Rebecca's name tag, I'm specifically interested in seeing rare colored diamonds. I understand you have some exceptional pink and blue stones. Rebecca's patience was clearly wearing thin. Look, I'm going to be direct with you because I think we're wasting each other's time. Those stones are part of our most exclusive collection. They require serious financial commitment and typically go to customers who are building significant jewelry collections or making once-in-a-lifetime purchases, such as engagement rings or anniversary gifts, Marcus suggested, such as acquisitions by serious collectors or investments by people who understand the rare diamond market. We're not talking about sentimental purchases here. We're talking about stones that appreciate in value and represent significant capital investments. Marcus felt the familiar burn of discrimination dressed up as expertise. And you've concluded that I don't understand the diamond market? I've concluded that you're probably not in the market for a $2.3 million blue diamond or a $4.7 million pink diamond. Those aren't impulse purchases, and they're not bought by people who walk in off the street in casual clothes without appointments. The condescension in her voice was unmistakable, and other customers in the store had begun to notice the tension of the conversation. Get out now before I call security. This store is for serious jewelry buyers, not people like you who clearly can't afford Tiffany. The brutal dismissal fell like a bomb in the elegant store. Several customers stopped what they were doing, shocked by the harshness of Rebecca's words. Sales associates paused their conversations, sensing that something had gone very wrong. Marcus felt every eye in the store watching her, waiting to see how she would respond to being publicly humiliated and ejected from one of the world's most prestigious jewelry stores. This was the moment that would define not just her experience, but the future of everyone who had witnessed it. Among the witnesses was Jennifer Chen, a longtime Tiffany customer who had been browsing engagement rings with her fiancé. She had watched the entire interaction and was appalled by the treatment Marcus had received. "Excuse me," Jennifer said, stepping forward. "I watched this whole conversation, and what just happened was completely inappropriate. This woman was polite and respectful, and you treated her terribly." Rebecca turned her attention to Jennifer, clearly annoyed by the interruption. "Ma'am, this is a private conversation between myself and someone who was disrupting our store environment." "She wasn't disrupting anything," Jennifer's fiancé added. "She was asking to see jewelry just like every other customer here. The only disruption was your behavior." Other customers began murmuring their agreement. An elderly gentleman who had been examining watches walked over. "Young lady," he said to Rebecca, "I've been shopping at Tiffany for 40 years, and I've never seen a customer treated with such disrespect. What you just said was completely unacceptable." Marcus appreciated the support from other customers, but she knew the real issue was systemic. This wasn't just one employee having a bad day. This was the result of policies and attitudes that had been allowed to flourish unchecked. Marcus reached into her handbag and pulled out her phone, her movements calm and deliberate despite the anger building in her chest. Rebecca and the gathering customers watched her, probably expecting her to leave or call someone to pick her up. Instead, Marcus dialed a number she knew by heart. "David, it's Marcus. I need you to conference in legal and Tiffany corporate immediately. We have a serious discrimination situation at the Fifth Avenue flagship store." David Morrison, her chief of staff for 12 years, didn't hesitate. "Connecting now. Legal and Tiffany executives will be on the line in 60 seconds. Marcus held the phone so her voice would carry clearly in the store. "Thank you. And David, I need you to pull our retail partnership agreements with Tiffany, specifically the customer service standards and discrimination policy acknowledgments. Already pulling them. Marcus, are you safe?" "I'm safe, but this store isn't operating according to the standards we require from our retail partners." Rebecca and the other customers had gone very quiet, watching Marcus with growing confusion and unease. The tone of her phone call suggested she wasn't just an ordinary customer calling to complain. "Ma'am," Rebecca said, stepping closer, "if there's been a misunderstanding, we can discuss it privately in my office." Marcus looked at her calmly. "The misunderstanding, Miss Walsh, is that you've just told me I can't afford the diamonds I'm asking to see. You've made assumptions about my financial situation based on my appearance, and you've done it publicly, in front of other customers, while representing a store that sells jewelry made from stones that come from my mines." "Your mines?" Rebecca asked, her voice uncertain. "That's right. The mines that produce the rare colored diamonds you just told me I couldn't afford to see." Marcus answered the phone and immediately put it on speaker. "Good afternoon. This is Marcus Diamond, CEO of Diamond Luxe International, calling from the Tiffany & Co. flagship store on Fifth Avenue. I need to report a discrimination incident involving the store manager." The response was immediate and professional. "This is Catherine Rodriguez, General Counsel for Diamond Luxe International. We're recording this call. Can you describe the incident?" "I entered this store as a customer interested in purchasing rare colored diamonds from our exclusive collection. I was dismissed, told I couldn't afford Tiffany jewelry, denied the opportunity to examine pieces, and publicly humiliated based on my appearance." "And who was the staff member involved?" Catherine asked. Marcus looked at her directly. "Rebecca Walsh, store manager." The effect was immediate and devastating. Rebecca's face went white as she began to understand the magnitude of what had just occurred. The other customers in the store recognized they were witnessing something extraordinary. "Miss Walsh," Catherine's voice came through the speaker, You're suspended from Diamond Luxe retail partnership locations, effective immediately pending a full investigation. Miss Diamond, do you need security assistance? Not yet, Marcus replied, her voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. But I want a full review of Tiffany's customer service protocols and immediate retraining of all staff on our partnership standards. Understood. Tiffany corporate executives are being contacted now. Rebecca finally found her voice. Miss Diamond, I had no idea who you were. Exactly. You had no idea who I was, so you decided I didn't matter. You judged me by my clothes and concluded I wasn't worth your time or respect. As the reality of the situation sank in, Rebecca began to understand not just who Marcus was, but what her company controlled. Diamond Luxe International wasn't just another jewelry company. It was the invisible foundation that made stores like Tiffany possible. The rare blue diamond that Rebecca had mentioned cost $2.3 million. It had come from Marcus's exclusive mine in South Africa. The pink diamond, priced at $4.7 million. It was from her Australian operations. Every colored diamond in Tiffany's exclusive collection, every rare stone that made the store famous for its exceptional pieces, originated from mines that Marcus owned. But the scope went far beyond individual stones. Diamond Luxe International controlled the supply chain that brought raw diamonds from mines to polished gems to retail stores. They owned the cutting facilities that transformed rough stones into brilliant gems, the certification processes that verified authenticity and quality, and the logistics networks that moved precious stones safely around the world. When customers walked into Tiffany and marveled at the brilliance of a diamond, they were looking at the end result of a process that Marcus had designed, funded, and perfected over 2 decades of building her empire. Ms. Walsh, Marcus continued, do you understand what Diamond Luxe International does? Rebecca shook her head, still processing the revelation. We own the mines that produce 73% of the world's diamonds. We own the refineries that process precious metals. We own the cutting facilities that turn rough stones into the gems you sell. And we own controlling interests in 847 jewelry retailers in 67 countries. She gestured around the store. Every colored diamond in this store came from my mines. The rare pieces you told me I couldn't afford, they exist because my company invested billions in developing mining operations that could extract stones of that quality. Within 30 minutes, the Tiffany store had been transformed into the scene of a corporate crisis. 3 executives from Tiffany & Co. corporate headquarters had arrived, along with 2 representatives from Diamond Luxe's legal team. Rebecca Walsh had been escorted to a back office where she was meeting with HR representatives and trying to comprehend the magnitude of her mistake. Marcus found herself in the store's VIP consultation room, getting a briefing on how the incident would be handled and what immediate changes would be implemented. Ms. Diamond, said Richard Pemberton, Tiffany's VP of Retail Operations, we are profoundly sorry for what happened today. Ms. Walsh's behavior was completely contrary to our values and our partnership standards. Mr. Pemberton, Marcus replied, this wasn't an isolated incident. This was the result of policies and attitudes that have been allowed to develop unchecked. I need to understand how widespread this problem is. The investigation that followed revealed troubling patterns. Customer satisfaction surveys showed significant disparities in how customers were treated based on their appearance and perceived economic status. Sales data indicated that Black and Hispanic customers were systematically shown less expensive pieces, regardless of their stated preferences or budget. Most concerning of all, there had been 23 formal complaints about discriminatory treatment in the past year. All 23 had been filed with store management, and all had been marked as resolved without any documented follow-up or corrective action. How did these patterns go undetected? Marcus asked. The store was meeting its sales targets, Pemberton replied uncomfortably. When metrics look good, we tend to focus on financial performance rather than customer experience quality. Marcus leaned back in her chair. So you were making money, and that was enough. We failed in our oversight, Pemberton admitted. We should have been monitoring customer experience metrics more carefully, especially given our partnership commitments. News of the incident spread quickly through the luxury retail and jewelry industries. Within hours, industry publications were reporting on the discrimination incident and Diamond Luxe's response. Social media amplified the story, with many people sharing their own experiences of discrimination in luxury retail environments. But the real impact was felt in corporate boardrooms across the industry. If Diamond Luxe International, company that controlled such a significant portion of the global diamond supply, was willing to take strong action against discrimination, other companies needed to examine their own practices. Marcus used the attention to announce a comprehensive industry initiative. Diamond Luxe would require all retail partners to implement bias training for staff, establish customer service standards that prohibited appearance-based discrimination, and submit regular reports on customer satisfaction across demographic groups. The jewelry industry has a responsibility to serve everyone who appreciates beauty and craftsmanship, Marcus said in a statement. We will not tolerate discrimination in any form, and we will use our position in the supply chain to ensure that excellence in customer service means excellence for all customers. The initiative sent shockwaves through the industry. Retailers who wanted to continue carrying Diamond Luxe's exclusive stones, which included most of the world's premier jewelry stores, had to meet new standards for inclusive customer service. Rebecca Walsh never worked in luxury retail again. Her termination from Tiffany was immediate, and word of the incident spread quickly through the industry's professional networks. But beyond the career consequences, the incident forced Rebecca to confront her own biases and assumptions. In the weeks that followed, she began to understand how her prejudices had not only hurt other people, but had cost her a career she had worked years to build. She had let assumptions about race and class override her professional training and basic human decency. The woman she had dismissed and humiliated controlled an empire worth $156.8 billion. And had the power to transform an entire industry. But more importantly, she was a person who deserved respect and courtesy regardless of her wealth or status. Rebecca eventually found work in a different field, but she never forgot the lesson of that Saturday afternoon, that dignity and respect aren't luxuries to be rationed based on appearances, but basic rights that every person deserves. Chapter 12. The Transformation. 6 months later, Tiffany & Co.'s Fifth Avenue flagship had become a model for inclusive luxury retail. Under new management and with comprehensive staff training, the store served customers with equal respect and enthusiasm, regardless of their appearance or background. Marcus made it a point to visit regularly, always unannounced and always dressed casually. Each time, she was greeted promptly and treated with the courtesy that should be standard for every customer. More importantly, she observed the same respectful treatment extended to all customers, regardless of their race, age, or attire. The changes weren't limited to Tiffany. Across the jewelry industry, Retailers had implemented new training programs and customer service standards. Mystery shopping programs regularly tested stores to ensure compliance with non-discrimination policies. The National Retail Federation invited Marcus to speak at their annual conference about building inclusive luxury experiences. She used that platform to share a simple message. Every person who enters your store is worthy of respect. Every customer deserves excellent service, and every assumption you make based on appearance is a relationship you'll lose and a reputation you'll damage.
For Marcus, the incident represented both a professional challenge and a personal reminder of the work still needed to build a truly inclusive society. She had built a global empire and controlled billions in assets, but none of that had protected her from the sting of discrimination. The experience strengthened her resolve to use her position and resources to create change. Diamond Luxe established a $50 million foundation focused on supporting minority-owned businesses in the jewelry industry and providing scholarships for students interested in gemology and mining engineering. Marcus also began speaking more publicly about her experiences as a Black woman in business, sharing the challenges she had faced and the strategies that had helped her build her empire. Her story inspired other entrepreneurs and business leaders to examine their own industries for systemic barriers and discrimination. The changes at Tiffany and throughout the jewelry industry didn't stay contained within luxury retail. Other industries began adopting similar policies, recognizing that inclusive customer service wasn't just morally right, it was good business. The hospitality industry implemented bias training programs. Financial services companies examined their customer treatment practices. Even government agencies began reviewing how they served citizens from different backgrounds. Marcus's simple act of shopping for jewelry while Black exposed systemic problems that extended far beyond one store or one industry. The response demonstrated that change was possible when people with power and influence demanded it. 2 years later, Marcus kept a photo from that day on her office desk, not of the confrontation, but of the Tiffany store's transformation ceremony, where new customer service standards were formally implemented. The image showed diverse staff members from all backgrounds working together to serve customers with dignity and respect. It reminded her every day that business success and social responsibility weren't competing priorities, but complementary goals that strengthened each other. The jewelry industry had learned that excellence meant excellent treatment for all customers. The lesson, delivered one discriminatory encounter at a time, had changed everything. Marcus still shopped at jewelry stores, still dressed casually for weekend errands, still walked into businesses where people sometimes made assumptions about her purchasing power. But now, when those assumptions proved wrong, she had an industry that stood as proof of what happened when you treated customers with dignity regardless of their appearance. The luxury retail industry learned that respect wasn't an expensive option. It was standard equipment. And that lesson, delivered one customer at a time, continued to transform not just businesses, but the communities they served. If this story moved you, remember that every interaction is an opportunity to choose dignity over discrimination. Every customer deserves respect, and every assumption we make costs us more than we know. Because sometimes the most precious stone you can polish is character, and that's a gem that never loses its value.